A very warm welcome to a special episode on our UK Floorball Federation YouTube channel. We are having a little bit of a preview, a little bit of a look at the upcoming Västerås International Floorball Open, in which GB are going to be an integral part and, hey, could even win the whole thing. That's coming up this weekend. We are very glad to be joined by GB men's head coach Binge Strandh and the captain Mark Jones. So without further ado, let's bring them both on board. Binge, Mark, how are you both this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm fine too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time out to join us, to just talk through what we can expect this weekend and how things have gone for the GB program, and how and Binge, of course, how you're going to take things forward. Of course, the new GB men's head coach. So let's start there, Binge. Just how do you feel about being in your new role with GB men's?
It's an exciting experience I got, and I got to experience a fantastic team to work with, fantastic players who is grown up and take it seriously from start to the end every time we meet. So far, I think we've made good sessions.
Now, obviously, you're a very experienced coach, but you were a goalie before that as well in your playing days. How did being a goalie, I'd just like to stress, fully paid up members of the Goalies Union over here, how did being a goalie set you on the path to coaching? And do you think that's had any direct benefit?
As a goalkeeper, you see the enter court. You have remember that if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's visible. But if an outfield player makes the mistake, someone else can correct it. So it's not as visible as a goalie. But also the fact that we work according to the goal, and we play 6 men in defense and 5 in attack. A goalkeeper not only saves, but he also be a fellow player in the team.
And is that a sort of mentality that you've taken into coaching, where, you know, a goalie makes a mistake, that's on show, that's highlighted. If a coach makes a mistake, that's something similar as well. That's really can be highlighted.
Yeah, it is. It's a different ways. But I also coached ice hockey before, and I learned a lot, and I worked with some of the best coaches in Sweden and Norway. So I have learned a lot, and all my experience, I think I think I can share enough to learn a lot.
And Mark, let's just introduce your background a little bit to the viewers as well. Of course, you've been playing with GB since 2018. You play for one of the real top sides in Germany, DJK Holzburgen. Just tell us about your background in the sport and how you've come to captain GB.
Well, I started in Germany when I was about 10 years old because my parents saw an ad in the paper, and I picked up a stick the next day, and I never really stopped playing ever again. And I was very lucky to play in one of the biggest growing clubs in the whole of Germany, and I think that's probably also helped me find my footing internationally with Team GB. And I think over the years and over all of the development, that has helped me to grow the team from my side as well.
So, yeah, let's just explore that a little bit. How, obviously, you play at a very high level in the German Bundesliga. How does that competition, how does that help you come into GB camps and compete for GB?
I think it's given me the chance to play different styles of floorball, because in every country the sport is a little bit different, has little different extras. And I think every player who plays for GB, we have a lot of foreign players. We all bring our own kind of floorball to the table, and that's how we make a little melting pot of Team GB. And I think that's what helps us be fairly good in international competitions. And I think it's just getting better and better. And the team is growing as well. We're getting way better players every year. And I think there's a bright future ahead.
So that's something that I want to explore with you both a bit more. But Mark, what is the style of German like domestic floorball, for example? Then
I think if you compare it to, for example, the Swedish or the Swiss floorball, the German floorball is fairly physical, I think, and there's a lot of like physical play, a lot of fast moves. But I think, for example, in Sweden or Switzerland, you have a lot more focus on the passing and on the really in detail tactics. And I think Germany is slowly going that direction as well. But I think it's still just hanging behind a little bit.
Okay. So Binge, what does GB Floorball look like under Binge Strandh?
Yeah. I hope I contribute with my knowledge in a positive way, but I think also that it takes time, and I'm happy to be part of building it. We don't meet the players so often, so we need to give the players some keys that they can work with in their club or private, at home, something. But we work with the team as a unit, not as a player. We have always talked about the sessions we got. I also told Mark before is I want the best team. I not want the best players.
What are obviously you've alluded to it there that the Team GB players they don't come together frequently. Many of them don't live in the same country. Like we've got, our captains based in Germany. I know we've got some local based players in the UK leagues and other players around Europe. How have you been managing that challenge and bringing together a cohesive unit?
I think the players are grown up. The players know what we want from them. And we always tell them, I'm honestly with every players, I always tell them, you have to practice this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And when we meet, I say, I also send out a formula they want to fill out and send back to me, who they are. And some players write a lot of things, but I said, something I don't care. I don't care about what you have done always, but I care what you show for me. And that's more important for me than what we have done before.
Mark, obviously as captain, what is your role in building the team culture and inputting a little bit of what Binge wants GB to look like?
I think for us, it's really important to not only use the time we have playing floorball and learning the tactics that Binge has planned for us. For us, it's also really important to get together as a team outside of the training sessions, have a good time. Maybe after the camps, have a nice evening together. Sometimes we were able to go out to swimming pools, or people have gone to spas together after training camps, just to spend a lot of time together and just to grow as teammates and friends. And I think that's really important if we only see each other so short amounts of time every year. But we always keep in touch over WhatsApp. We have calls with like single people sometimes just to keep in touch.
I suppose I'm just thinking now about how we lived during the pandemic, during the lockdown. Has that that experience helped yourselves in keeping the GB group together whilst you're so disparate throughout the regular seasons?
I think it was quite difficult at first. There was a short period of time, or a semi-short period of time, where we did workouts together online, which were a lot of fun, which I organized for a while. But of course, over time, people were able to go back to play for their clubs. Most of the guys who were playing in Sweden were able to just play through the whole of the pandemic, which a lot of the other players in Europe didn't have the luxury. So that helped us a bit to keep in touch, at least. But of course, it was really tough, especially not having any training camps at all. So for some of us, it was maybe a 1-2 year break of seeing each other at all, which is a shame.
Looking forward to this weekend, of course, it's the Västerås International Floorball Open. It is Great Britain. Let's just refresh ourselves on the fixtures. So taking on Netherlands on Friday evening, Iceland on Saturday evening, and Ukraine Sunday morning, with a potential place in the final on Sunday afternoon. They're all British summertime times, and you might as well get out of the way now, fellas. You can watch it all on Innebandy TV, which is the home of Swedish Innebandy or Floorball. And when I subscribed to it for 30 days, a little bit earlier on, it cost me £9.73. Each game, as it stands today, with the exchange rate, costs £3.70. So work out how you want to pay for it, how you want to watch it, but it is on the Innebandy TV. Righto, back to the tournament. Finger, what are you expecting out of it? What does success look like for you this weekend?
It was successful for the weekend is what I am more concerned with our own game, regardless of the opponent. We need to play as we intended, making the right decision and minimizing our own mistakes. That's what I want to see this weekend. If we make a good game and lose, sorry, okay, we need to take that. But we're going for winning every game. So I think for me this weekend will be to see we got some new players who is joining. I never seen, so I want to see everyone.
Mark, same question for you, really. What does success look like for the captain this weekend?
I think, of course, success is winning games. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it. But I think more important for us as a team is going to be just to grow together and spend as much time together as we can. And I think not only for the team, but also for Binge and the coaching staff is going to be really important to find the team that we want to go on towards the qualifiers, because that's the goal we're working towards. And it's still quite a big selection of players we've got this weekend. So I think it's going to be important for everyone to have a chance to play, to show what they've got, and then to potentially get a part in the squad for the upcoming qualifiers.
Taking it, and I completely take your point, Binge, and a lot of the coaches I've spoken to down the years in various sports say the same as you. I don't care about who we're playing. I don't care about anybody else. We're only focusing on us. I'm going to focus on other teams for just a second.
Come on.
Looking at the opposition. Netherlands, obviously, Mark, you will have played against them most recently last summer, I think it was, in the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, we played against them in the last World Cup qualifiers and we beat them, which was nice. It was a good game. It was a tough game. But I think it's going to be fun playing them again. I think they definitely will want to win this time. And I don't know what squad they'll be bringing. I guess they will still also be preparing for the qualifiers. But if it comes to stuff we might want to know about the teams, they have quite good individuals, especially a very, very strong goalkeeper who plays pretty high in Finland, who might give us a bit of headache. But yeah, that's all I can say so far.
Well, I don't know if Jasper Songen, the Cambridge, is playing, but fingers crossed, we get to see Jasper on the big stage when he's not slap shots at me in training. Iceland and Ukraine as well. Now, for me, these are teams that, GB could be very competitive with. Again, Mark, what's your take on the oppositions?
I think Iceland's going to be a fun game. I think that's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most, because they play on a fairly high level, but they're definitely a team that we can beat. We've faced them twice in the past. At least I've faced them twice in the past, and we weren't able to get a win in the past. So it would be fun to get one this time. I guess we definitely have to talk about their star player Stefansson, who I think he just won the Swedish title in the SSL with Storvreta.
Yes.
So that's one of the guys who knows how to put the ball into the net. But it's always fun playing against the world's elite.
Yeah, sorry. Just let's talk about that for a second, because obviously you guys played against Finland last year. Finland were third in the World Championship this past winter. For me, they have the best league in the world, or at least the league I enjoy the most in the world. No, well, of course, Bingo would disagree, and that's totally fine.
No. Finland got the best team, but Sweden has the best league.
Fair enough. But yeah, some of the names, some of the faces that you were playing against when you met up with Finland again last year in the qualifiers, Mark. I was just looking at it earlier. I was like, oh, they played against Rantala. Of course you did. But you know, how is that going against some of the really elite players in the world?
It's quite tough because you don't really go into a game against Finland expecting to maybe have a lucky punch and get a win. But you go into games against Finland to play your best game, and games against Finland are the best games to prepare for opponents that we can then beat on the other hand, because that's the highest level defense that we can or that we need to play. And even if they will score their goals, and it's just the difference in everything, in technique, in speed, in tactics. So I don't think we need to look for wins when we play against teams like that. We just need to learn as much as we can and just enjoy playing against players that we see on TV other times of the day.
Yeah, Bingo. How was that experience? Obviously, you weren't the GB coach against Finland at the last qualifiers, but you know, coaching against really elite teams. What's the learning experience like from a coach's point of view?
What do you mean? Sorry.
So when you're coaching against other elite teams, how do you find the learning experience?
Yeah, it is like Mark says. You have to learn every change you do. You have to be prepared for what you're doing. And if you do a fault out there, sorry, do it better next time. You have to learn every step you take. You have to learn something.
Yeah, I think you can take every single shift as a learning experience. As a player and as a line, you can see how other opponents move against you in a normal face-off. And I think if you go into every shift with the goal not to concede, then hopefully more often than not, you will succeed as well. And then it's just small things that you can take the energy and just keep going and going. And like we did against Finland, we only scored one goal, but we did score one goal. And I mean, it shows that we can put the ball into the Finnish net, even though there's probably 5 of the best players or 6 of the best players in the world against us on the field.
Turning our attention back to the Västerås tournament, Ukraine. What do we know what we can expect from out of Ukraine?
Go on, Mark.
We've got one player who plays in our team or who's played for GB in the past, Will Palmer, who spent quite a lot of time in the Ukraine during the pandemic playing floorball. Apparently it's exploding there. It's growing really, really fast. And there's a lot of new clubs. There's a lot of money involved. They're trying to grow the sport really fast, and they're doing a very good job. So I think we're going to face a very motivated team with a lot of players that are hungry for international games and hungry for playing time. And I think that's just going to make for a fun fight.
I'm sure it's going to be a fun fight because we have a player who has been coaching in Ukraine with us in our team. And I know we have some clubs, but it's really big. FBC Lemberg. I think they have almost half of the squad is from that club. So I think we're good in good shape to have a good game against.
Thinking about the tournament. Obviously, you've told us, Mark, who you're most looking forward to competing against. Binge, what about yourself? Is there a particular game that you're really relishing?
I'm not thinking of it yet, but I'm sure it's be coming. But I think if I should answer now, Iceland will be fine to have a game against, because and I think we can give them a good match. And probably, I hope we can win it too, because our team is good enough for it.
In terms of thinking about the longer term picture for GB Floorball, obviously at the UK finals a couple of weeks ago, we had the first ever women's showcase match, an inter-squad scrimmage, essentially. And that was the first time the GB women's team have played on GB soil, which just baffles my mind. Now, Mark, you'll know better than me, but I'm assuming that's going to be a similar situation for the men as well.
To be honest, I can't remember ever playing for GB in Great Britain. We've only ever played against each other in training camps in the past, and we've not had a lot in England, I'm afraid, because we just didn't have the best facilities.
So is that, and, you know, we have this conversation a lot. I also work in British basketball. We have this conversation a lot about facilities there as well. Is that the real hurdle that we need to get over if we want to be able to see GB playing in GB, better quality facilities for floorball?
I think okay, sorry. Go on.
You can go first.
Yeah, I think the UK has a challenge. There are too few halls, and also the economy plays a big role. But I'm convinced that the floorball in UK want to be growing bigger and bigger. We have only started the journey, but I'm not sure how fast it's going to be.
Yeah, I think facilities are probably the main problem, getting enough halls, especially enough halls that can comfortably fit a proper rink. And then, of course, there has to be a larger distribution of rinks altogether across the UK, because from what I hear, there's not too many floating around.
There's a couple.
I think other than that, as long as there's a lot of and enough motivated players playing in the clubs and people trying to promote the sport for young kids as well in schools and other places and setting up youth teams, and I think there's the opportunity for floorball to grow in Great Britain as well, and probably grow fast.
I mean, for me, call me biased, I don't care. For me, it's a great sport to watch. It's a great sport to play. And I think it's got real potential as a spectator sport in this country. We see what ice hockey's done in this country, where it is, you know, obviously it was invented here, essentially. But then it's, you know, gone away, grown quite well. I mean, Binge, you've obviously, I think it's fair to say Sweden ice hockey is number one sport.
No, if you got floorball in Sweden, remember, in Sweden there live 10 million people, in the UK 60 million. In Sweden there are 120,000 players in floorball.
Oh, wow.
In ice hockey is about 60,000, so 65. I'm not sure, but almost double up in floorball against ice hockey.
That bodes well. I like that. That is good. I mean, it makes sense. It's way easier, way cheaper to get into. If I wanted to be a goalie in ice hockey, I have to shell out a lot of money, plus 20 quid for an hour of getting puck slapped in my face. It's not a great return on investment. So for GB to be able to host fixtures in the future, we need a rink, we need facilities, we need a floor. These are the sorts of things, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's opportunities to borrow floors from clubs abroad. I think that's not necessarily the problem. You can roll out the gear floor fairly easily. But of course, you need a good hall that can fit a good amount of spectators, and of course, that has the facilities to host a tournament like that. But if there is the opportunity to do that, then I think there's nothing standing in the way of Great Britain ever hosting events like this, especially starting with small tournaments like this one. We had a tournament in France I think it was last year or maybe the year before, also organized from a local club. It was fairly small, but they had a good hall. They borrowed the floor from the International Federation, I think. I don't want to be lying, I'm not sure. But they set up the weekend, invited a few teams, and we had a brilliant weekend.
Yeah, how big is this? I don't know if you both filled out the Future of Floorball survey from the IFF a few weeks ago. Firstly, gargantuan. My goodness, IFF. Smaller surveys in the future, maybe. But how does this sort of tournament this weekend grow our sport and really benefit the nations like GB Floorball? And Binge, we'll go for you.
Yeah, I think I work with UK Floorball. I need and I want to see U19 players in the squad, the men's squad, UK squad. So in this tournament, we got two players, Robin Hickson and William Richardson and Robin Hickel is going to join us and play for the men's squad this time. And I hope they can do it well and take a place in the squad for the world qualification. So I think we need to see more of the youth players in UK. And I also have a discussion with Dean in the UKFF, but he said to me, probably 30% this time will need to be UK players. And every time we go, at least 50 once in the future, we're going to have 50 persons who lives in UK who play for the national team.
And Mark, how does a tournament like the Västerås International Floorball Open, how does that benefit GB? How does that benefit our sport with nations at our level?
I think it's, first of all, just people in the UK watching tournaments like that from home. I think that's a big part, because then you get to see us play as a national team and us perform internationally. I think that's what can motivate players in Great Britain to grow their own floorball skills, maybe especially young players, give them a goal to work towards, to maybe one day also play in an international match for Great Britain, because that's a great honour as it is. And I think that's the main point. But I think with every tournament we play internationally, and every single player who plays in England and joins us, he's going to bring back home so much new knowledge every time that he can then bring to his own club, his own trainings, and at the end into the UK league.
Again, I see that first. So full disclosure, I train. I don't play in the league. I commentate the league, but I train, and I train with Cambridge. I've seen firsthand the benefit of people going with their national teams. We had Dimi Kessler, who has supported GB in the past. We have Jesper Songen, who plays for the Netherlands national team. He might even be the captain or have captained. When they come to training, they bring that knowledge. I know the Sharks have that with Adam Saletti, so I completely agree with you, Mark. Like the benefit to the national game or to the domestic game of players playing with under you, Binger, and with yourself, Mark, it's going to be immense for our domestic league. And what you've just told me there, Mark, as well, is there is a pathway, because I think most clubs will have a junior section, and you can see the clear, right, if you excel at juniors, then you might get, moved up, like Rasmus Edmundsson. Okay, he's Swedish, but he's like 14, 15 playing in the UKFF English League. If we can, get some players who are GB eligible at that age, under 19s, bada bing, bada boom. Bingo, you're hitting your 50% with talent who've been playing for a long time.
Yeah, I think it sounds good to get the players. You also got players who I know we got in last session. We got Aaron Blowers, the goalie from Cambridge.
Yep.
He make a big mark, and I'm gonna follow him a lot. And I hopeful can go over to UK and do practices with teams and knowledge and educate the coaches as we can build it together, because you can't do it by yourself. You have to be a big team around it. But if I can go there and share my experience and show them exercises and educate coaches, I think we are in a good way to start something new and something big.
Now, I did promise you both that this would be, quick and easy. So I've got a couple of final questions that I will wrap up with in a moment. But Binge, that puts me in mind of what England did very successfully with their football national team, women's and men's structures, where there's a lot of similarities in how they play throughout the system and how they there's a clear pathway of success. Is that something that you're working with the under-19 program at all, and any other junior programs to bring through pathway players?
Not at the moment. I will. I hope I can go over and make some training sessions with the under U19 players. Also to get the coaches there and tell coaches why we do and what we do and how we do it as everyone, because as with Mark and every other players in the squad we have now, we can only give them the keys, and it's up to them to open the door and use the key.
Okay, final couple of quick fire questions. Again, thinking about the Västerås International Floorball Open, which you can watch on Innebandy TV for the low price today of £9.78 or 49 Swedish krona per game. I think that's how it worked out. Are there any players, either from the GB squad or from other squads, that people could be really looking out for that are going to particularly excite the world this weekend? I understand that is an unfair question. However, we are being ambassadors for the sport, so we're going to take that in the spirit that it is meant.
For me, I think it's hard to single out a few players, but we can highlight Mark, who has shown himself to advise both on and off court, more mature in the head than his age is. But we also have quality players like Jakob Karlsson, a Swedish player who played in second highest league this year in Sweden. And he is a good defender, both defense and offense defender. And we got the two players from U19 team, Robin Hickel and William Rickson, who will be exciting to follow.
Yeah, I've certainly commentated Will before, and he's a real talent, that guy. Mark, is there anybody from your team or from other teams that you want to shine a light on?
Like Binge said, it's hard to shine a light on single players because it's fun playing with every single one, and I hope I'll get the chance to play with a lot of them during the weekend. But there's loads of players with so much talent in our team. For example, Connor Swales, who's started off in the last few years and he's just rocketing to the top, playing brilliant games for Great Britain. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching him play again as well. But also all of the guys from Great Britain who we don't get to see on any other stages most of the time. I think it's going to be fun to see them perform on an international level as well.
Okay, so that almost brings us to a close, like I've promised these two. So apologies once again for taking so much of your time, and we're super grateful. Binge, to the people watching this video at home, what do you say to them about this weekend's tournament?
I want to say, I'm hopeful that most people want to show up in Västerås, but if they can't, join Innebandy TV and follow UKFF on social media and get all. Yeah, I mean it.
guy's a pro. Mark Jones. What do we say to the people who might have just stumbled across this and they're like, oh, what's this tournament at the weekend? And do I fancy it? What do you say to them, Mark?
International games are always amazing to watch. They're always a lot of fun. And I think you don't get to see us compete internationally that much. So it's definitely worth tuning in and having a look at it and see how GB does internationally.
Okay, well, thank you both immensely for your time. And of course, the absolute best of luck to you both this weekend. For a final reminder of the lineup at the Västerås International Floorball Open, GB kickoff Friday night, 7 p.m. British time against Netherlands. On Saturday at 3 p.m. it is Iceland and Ukraine. On Sunday morning at 11 a.m. are the opposition for GB. Once again, thank you so much, Binge and Mark, and the absolute best of luck to you both.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, and to everybody who has checked out this video, a massive thank you for you to taking the time. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell notification. You never know when we're going to do a little preview video with some of the best and brightest of UK floorball. And if you haven't already, go and watch the games back from the UK finals. Go watch the highlights. Some real great action there. What's not to love? All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.